Hey,
Okay.
Hey
hey,
there, Lou.
Lou, how you doing?
All right.
I'm Brian Kelly. I'm Phil's son.
Good. Nice.
Very nice to meet you.
You
Big
too,
fan,
man.
very big fan.
Lou, I'm Daryl Bean. Um, I need to introduce you to the people that don't know you. There might be a couple out there. Um, Folks, this is Lou Marini, who was with the 1 O'Clock Lab Band and also Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and played with Frank Zappa and the Tonight, well, maybe not the Tonight Show Band, but definitely the Saturday Night Live Band. And was on 100 albums, and I could go on, but we want to spend time talking with you about you and Phil Kelly. And we know that you know Phil Kelly from way back in Ohio days.
Yeah,
So,
Phil actually, I didn't know this, but I remember at one point Phil told me that he had actually studied arranging with my dad, and my dad was a great teacher and a wonderful musician. So that made me real happy. But uh, Phil's arranging. I've often said this about his arranging. He's one of those guys. There's a lot of guys whose music sounds good, but is not really fun to play. And with Phil's charts, you always felt, no matter what part you were playing, it felt great. You know, it did. Like if you
Yeah,
were playing the fourth tenor part, you had a swinging part, man. And
yeah.
and I always loved that about his writing. I was thinking about him today because I thought of Don Jacoby, uh, and I remembered a thing that Phil. I remembered a couple things. One, I was wondering if Bubba or Mike or John Jacoby have Jake's uh, sextet book that we played for so long because there were a lot of Phil's charts in it, and Phil's Phil like uh, the he wrote a great chart on "I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande." You know that too. But he titled it "I'm a cowed old hand and with a worn out gland."
Oh, that's funny.
But I was wondering if if they had any of those charts because man, we had a really good band, and and uh, and so many of those charts of Phil's were just so great. And the other thing I was thinking about too was that it reminded me uh, about Jake had sort of retired, and
Yeah.
and we got together. I don't remember what it was, but Phil told Jake how much he loved him and loved his music, his trumpet playing, and all the things he did. And Jake says, "Well, why are you telling me now?" And 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 Phil says, "Well, now that we're not working together," he says, "I know you'll know that I'm not blowing smoke up your ass."
Oh, that's funny.
But
Well, the comment.
go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. The comment he made to me, he says, I remember eating in Columbus, Ohio. We would go to a lot of good restaurants there, and that's one of my favorite things that Lou and I used to do. So any reference like that when I was talking to him would be the things that I jotted down whenever I started thinking about what are we going to ask Lou when he comes on. And also, do you have any times that you played actually with him while he was drumming?
Yeah, well, that's one thing I was really lucky because that first edition of Jake's band that I
Okay.
played with, and that was the end of my freshman year in college,
Okay.
and I looked like I was a kid, and I looked like I was a much younger kid, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember Jake used to tell a story about when I showed up for the rehearsal because the tenor player that was playing with him, a really great player named Joe Davis, had been in a bad car crash. And so I was
Oh.
sent in, and then I ended up getting the gig. But Jake used to say, "Oh, damn it, he sent me a kid," and then I did well at the rehearsal, so I was in. But in that band, Phil was right behind me, so he could lean over his sock cymbal, I mean his ride cymbal, and I'm sitting like directly in front of him and just to the right of him, and the singer, we would play a different act every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and the singer would be singing a tune, and at the same time Phil would be singing dirty lyrics in my ear while it was going on. and
Oh
and
boy.
I remember that one night Phil used to play. One thing I loved playing with Phil because he was such a good arranger. He was so great at setting up horn figures and just making everything so comfortable.
Yeah.
So the intelligence of the arranger's head and knowing what to play, as well as swinging his ass off.
Yeah.
And we had a really good band. Richie Salico, the piano player, was fantastic.
Oh
But I
wow.
remember one night uh, we were playing, and I forget what tune it was, but Phil had a big drum solo, and it was always we would play the act, and then we would play a little mini show of our own. Jake would play "Can't Get Started" usually, and he would feature me on something, and we would do some rousing tune, and Phil was in the middle of his drum solo, and it was at this place called the Executive Inn, and there was a big curtain behind him, a big hanging curtain in front of a giant window or something,
Yeah. Hmm.
and on the bandstand. And Phil, in the middle of his drum solo, he suddenly disappeared. And what had happened was he was playing hard, and the weld on the drum stool snapped, and he just went back. And when he went back, he grabbed, to save himself, he grabbed that curtain. And so, in the middle of the solo, suddenly he's gone. And then the next thing you know, the curtain comes slowly folding down directly on top of him. And from inside the curtain, he's punching and he's going, damn, like it was, it was amazing, man.
Oh, that's funny. We heard a similar story from Lou Fisher. And we don't know if it's the same thing, but evidently that was a standard gag that he would perform and disappear. He said he fell off the stage one time when he was playing with him.
Wow.
I guess it's just, ballast and,
It was
weight
Randy Lee.
distribution.
Randy Lee said that.
Oh, is
Randy
that
Lee
was
said
Randy? Was Randy there?
No,
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 so
no.
this is a different
That was
situation.
another thing.
That's two different times.
Wow. Well, Phil and Larry had that jingle company, Larry Mahobarak,
Yeah.
and I used to love it when I would get called to play for them because it was always just great charts. And that cadre of musicians that was in Dallas in the studios, those
Yeah.
guys were world class musicians, man.
I'm telling you.
World class musicians. I learned that when I got to New York, playing with all these great players. Ain't nobody ever played with that was any better than Don Thomas was, for instance.
Yeah.
Or guys like Harvey Anderson, or those guys. All those guys just played their asses off, and they were great cats. And for me, it was like an apprenticeship of the first kind.
Wow. That's
so you
great.
played it. You played at Pepper Tanner. Did you play at some other studios in
Yeah, I
Dallas?
played for them all.
Yeah.
We did everything down there. Like uh, Tom Merriman, his studio, he was great, and I forget all of it, but we had some great adventures. Uh, I remember Phil. Uh, Phil was like this crazy character in a way. And I remember we were doing something in a big studio, but because it was just a solo for me, I was playing in the control room. And so the studio, they had taken down the interior of the studio. There was nothing up. And
Hmm.
Phil had to go to the bathroom. And so the bathroom was on the other side of the studio, cat a corner from where the control room was. And in the middle of the floor, there was a box, uh, just one of those like 3 inches high by 3 inches wide boxes to plug electric stuff in. And sure enough, Phil hit it, in this whole giant empty place.
Oh my
he,
gosh.
Wow.
he nailed it. And then, the the yelling and the cursing, and it was tremendous.
Yeah, John Gordiano said had a lot of stories along that same vein of, you know, you know what your father's nickname was, is what he said to me, and I go, yeah, I've heard a bunch of different things, but it was very interesting. He definitely. Actually gave him a kind of a hard time of the Stan Kenton old black and white stuff that y'all would do up at North Texas. I said, so you were teaching Lou. Why was he doing the solo when you were playing together? And he says, well, I taught him really well. He's a great player.
Oh,
So I
that's
thought,
good to hear.
I know it's funny. I just kind of said he liked that we had seen that, and I don't know where we found it, but we're finding all kinds of archives of stuff of everybody. It's really really fun stuff to do this, and
Lou,
we're
if I could ask, please, how did Phil get to know your father?
I'm not sure about that. Uh, uh, but my dad was arranging for a lot of bands around Ohio, and so Phil might have, it was probably the same old musician, one musician contact to another. But I didn't know that until Phil told me.
wow.
Yeah. And one thing about you know, Phil's Phil had such a fast mind and quick wit,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and being around him, uh, and he was so crusty. Like every rehearsal with Jake, I was a fiery young cat, and then there's Phil, and so there would always be something where Jake would get bugged, and and some kind of fracas, But I remember going to Phil's pad once and seeing his artwork, and I thought he was a terrific artist as well.
That was his major, was commercial art.
It was.
Yeah, I have all his artwork. We just discovered, I'm at my mom's right now. We discovered the artwork they did together for college for all the little uh, dances and for the yearbook. And I said, why have you been hiding this? This is what we're doing, Mom. She doesn't understand what we're doing, really. I
Uh,
said, that's for the archive now. And they drew stuff together, and it just blew me away. He's a fantastic artist. He really
yeah,
is.
that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
When
And a
when you
lot
were
of
in Ohio with Phil, and you played in the Jake's band, did you play before with him before Jake's band, or was that
No,
the first?
no, no. It
mhm.
was
Okay.
first. It was first in Texas, and those initial bands. Uh, Phil played at the executive end, and then we played together at a place called the Club Village, and and those were like years long gigs,
Oh, wow.
So there was a period of 2 or 3 years there where we were playing 6 nights a week or 5 nights a week together, and
Hmm.
so that's where we really got tight, and that's where I was able to really uh, see his brilliance and his wonderful sense of humor. Uh,
Do you? I read that Jake's band went south to Dallas, and he asked Trella Hart if she would join the band. Do you recall that?
yeah, because she was already singing with the band when I showed up, and
Wow.
I was 18 years old, and she was stunning
Yeah.
and and great and such a lovely person. I was totally in love with her, as I think everybody was
I
in
love
love with
Trella.
Trella.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, uh, and that band, it was. I mean, here I am, 18 years old, going to North Texas, playing with this band with Phil playing drums, Richie Salico, this great piano player, and Bobby Burgess.
Oh, wow.
I'm standing between Bobby Burgess, lead trombone player with Maynard Ferguson, Stan Kenton, Woody Herman, Louis Jordan, and Jake. That was my apprenticeship for like 3 or 3 years or 4 years.
Wow. You
Uh, it was tremendous, man.
you were in school when Maynard was there then, right? When you were
N-
at North Texas, or was
no,
he? Oh, it was after. Or
before, I
before,
think.
before. Okay, that's right. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I knew he went there too. Wow.
I asked
The,
about your father meeting Phil when, because you went to Navarre High School and Phil went to Canton in high school in Canton, and they're not very far from each other.
No, they're really
Maybe
close. But I didn't meet Phil. Phil, I don't know how many years older Phil was than me. Uh,
we figure 7 or 8.
yeah,
yeah.
something like that.
So that was enough that when I was a teenager, he was already in college and already.
He and Well, I can't think of anything other than it's just so fantastic to talk to you. Whenever we started this thing, I said I want to talk to Lou. I mean, because
Yeah.
he was telling stories, and they're just I
Well,
mean,
one time, one story. I think I think before I met Phil, I subbed at like the Hilton Hotel,
yeah,
and in the dress, and that's when I first met the bass player Ernie Chapman.
Ernie, yeah,
And we're in the dressing room. I meet Ernie, and there's a caricature on the wall, and all of it's just of a nose and forehead and eyes. And I looked at Ernie, and I looked at the caricature, and I said, "That's you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Phil Kelly drew that." And then he told me a story about. No, it was George Cherub, the great trumpet player, who was the band leader on that gig. George told me a story about Phil. Uh, Monique Van Voren. Did anybody tell you this story?
no,
No,
Monique Van Voren is is this thing X-rated or
no,
I
don't
mean,
worry. We edit
just
stuff later. Just tell the
will
story.
go ahead, be you.
well, the story is that Monique Van Voren shows up without an MD,
hmm
and so it's like an emergency, and Sherb calls Phil to play drums and MC the show, and
Okay.
be the music director. So they rehearse, and everything is great. Phil is setting the tempos, and he's got it. The band sounds great, and the first tune is an up tempo swinging tune, and she comes out, and she was like an insecure chick singer, like so. She comes out and she immediately turns around and goes to Phil, faster, faster. And George said that Phil just lowered his head and kept playing because it was exactly the right tempo, right where it's supposed to be. So then, like 15 or 16 bars go by, and she turns around again and says, faster, faster. And George said Phil lowered his head even further. And then uh, she turned around a third time and said, faster. And Phil boomed out, turn around, only he didn't say bitch. It was the C word. and and Ernie Chapman said you could see it go out through the audience like a wave of just people going like, "What?" And he said that she did the rest of the show. She never even looked sideways back at the band.
That's awesome.
That's a funny story. Oh my gosh.
So,
Well, he's a character. That's what's great.
Lou, did you stay in touch with Phil over the years?
Yeah, and you know what? It, I was on the road before. Yeah, when he passed, I owed him a phone call, and uh, and then I kept like I was. It was one of those things like I'd think of it, and it would be, oh, that's too late, or it was the wrong time to call her, and we were in it was the last date of a summer tour with James Taylor, and Steve Howard, the trumpet player, came up. And he said, "Man, what a drag about Phil." And I hadn't heard that Phil had passed, and it really bugged me that I didn't get to speak to him. That
Mm,
because I loved him, man. I
he's
really
a good
did.
guy.
He was.
The best.
I loved him, and I respected him, and I admired him. He was a great musician, man.
Yeah.
A great arranger and just a great musical head. And he stopped playing drums, but I loved playing with him when he was
Yeah.
playing drums. Man, I loved it. He swung
Hmm.
his ass off.
He had to write because he couldn't play, drum. The story was his office got broken into. They took all his Macintosh amps, not the computer, but the stereo, and all his speakers and stuff. And they got his cymbals. And he said, once they took my cymbals, I'd had those since Ohio. And, you can't, it took a lot out of him, I think.
Yeah.
That was like
Wow.
70, 73 or 72 when that happened.
Wow. Yeah, I was
Well,
already in New York then.
well, yeah, it's something. Well, this is the moment where I gush over you for the Blues Brothers because where that was filmed was where I was born. I was born in Skokie,
Were you?
and and I
Wow.
know a lot of that stuff happened right there, especially the jumping off the bridge part where the Nazis jump off.
Yeah.
That's right down the street from my grandmother's house
Wow.
on Kirk Street. But yeah, it's just that's like one of my number one. I mean, when I think of two movies, the other one I won't tell you what it is, but Blues Brothers is right up there. I bought it right when it came out, and I
Yeah, it's
was
one of my
just
favorite albums. Briefcase Full of Blues just was
oh,
it was so good back in the day.
Yeah.
So
B boxcar
You
blues.
know,
That's
oh yeah.
another one.
Well,
Oh
the
my,
B movie Boxcar Blues when we recorded that, uh, uh, we were 10 nights at the Universal Amphitheater, and we were opening act for Steve Martin, and every night was a
oh
standing ovation for
wow,
us. And I remember uh, I was closest in the semicircle the band set up in. I was closest to the audience, and in the front row, I saw Jack Nicholson. And we were
wow,
playing B movie Boxcar Blues, and I caught his eye, and he looked at me, and he took his sunglasses, and he lifted them up like this, and he went, "Wow!" and then lowered his
yeah,
sunglasses.
you can't beat that.
It's pretty cool.
Steve Cropper, man, and Matt Guitar Murphy, man, they're just unbelievable. The Wrecking Crew, everything, just fantastic.
Lou, do you have like a favorite Phil song? I mean, when you think of Phil's jazz charts, which one really pops out for you?
Well, here's one thing. Uh, Phil was the drummer. I started a big band in Dallas that went for a year. We played every Monday night at a little jazz club called the Villager,
Hmm.
and it was actually right. Well, now I can't remember where it was actually, but the band was made up of half guys from North Texas and half of the studio cats in Dallas. Like Jake played, Don Thomas played, Phil was the drummer, Ernie Chapman, Dave Zoller, Randy Lee,
Oh,
uh,
that
Scajari, I think, John Osborne. Uh, it was a great band,
crazy.
and and Phil wrote a bunch of charts because we never rehearsed.
Yeah,
We would sight read new charts. Somebody, either Dave Zoller, me, or Wayne Harrison, or Phil would have a new chart almost every week,
yeah,
and
wow,
sometimes we'd have two or three new charts. We'd sight and read them on the opening set, and then play them again on the second set, and the audience was invested in us. And Phil had written this. He wrote it. I have my part on a tune called Zip City, which was an
yes,
up tempo blues.
yeah,
But and then there was another tune of his called Swamp Thing, and it was a slow funk chart that was great.
hmm.
And I moved to New York, and the band kept playing, and Randazzo was playing bass trombone and running the band, and he had the book, and his car got stolen, and they found his car in Waco, and the trunk was open, and the book was gone. So our
Yeah,
whole book disappeared, and those charts of Phil's, because there were other ones too, but be that as it may, my favorite Phil chart is Sweet Georgia Upside Down.
yeah. There you go,
Man,
Bill
I
Walters.
can still sing that whole fucking thing.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, that's the old one that everybody always loves. Zip City, we just I've discovered that when pretty recent, wasn't it, Daryl? Did, have we had a recording, but we didn't know the name of it,
We
or I'm
we
getting
have more than one recording of Zip City.
okay.
From where?
Yeah, Bill Watchers did it, and there's a couple of college bands. I have
Wow.
links to
So
them.
so he must have had another copy beside the one in the band because I remember asking him about Swamp Thing, and he didn't he didn't remember it and he didn't have it.
Lou, it's possible that he just re-scribed it from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
John said he would do that. He'd sit in the back of the station wagon and have music when they'd have be at the next stop and start doing parts. The next stop they'd have the parts. That's how fast he'd write. He
Yeah.
said
He was.
he said he'd never seen anybody write and arrange while they're moving in a car.
Yeah.
That's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Very,
But
very
we'd
strange.
love to get a copy of Swamp Thing. I've never heard it.
Yeah. I wonder
Yeah.
if
Me.
we'll have to look for that.
The only thing well, there's another thing too. Phil had a really singular hand, man, and it reminds me. My dad does too. My dad did also, but my dad did everything in ink. But Phil's, I have a couple of his handwritten charts here, and his 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 music writing, just the writing itself was beautiful, so clear, so easy to read. Yeah, and like I said, his parts, no matter what part you were playing, felt like you were playing a lead part.
Oh, wow.
Great,
Wow.
just great.
The wild thing is probably everybody else in the band felt the same way. They all enjoyed their own
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah, it's true.
But kind of the same, we feel the love from everybody. That's pretty much the same level as what you're saying. I mean, all the way. We really thought John, we're talking to the maestro, Fort Worth Symphony. We thought it was going to be rather dry, or at least I did. And I thought he was going to be, and he told some of the funniest stories. We had no idea how long he had known my dad, and back in the old days. And he told us old band trips and stuff. It's just amazing when you find this stuff out. Like I'm at home and I'm 4 or 5 years old. I don't know where he is.
Yeah, yeah,
They're just on the road.
yeah,
So whenever I went to go stay with him, and I was there when they were passed and everything, I was the only one that would go up there. And Daryl went with me and got to meet him, and that's when we decided, we were going to do this.
yeah. Well, good, man. I'm glad you're doing it. And
Yeah.
if
Thank
I
you,
think
Lou.
of anything else, I'll call you back.
Okay,
Thank you, Lou.
good.
Yes.
We would
You have
love
my
to have a,
number.
a copy of that handwritten scores, anything like that. We would love that because
Yeah, okay.
we have to go to North Texas to look at the rest. They sent all of it that was left up there.
Uh-huh.
This has been fantastic. You're one of my biggest heroes, and I just can't believe I'm talking to you. It's just
It
crazy.
was a
Yeah,
pleasure to meet you, Lou. Really is.
yeah, very much
Thanks,
so.
Eric. Thanks. Same here, and thanks for doing this.
We still have a copy of Lou and Misha, that album.
Ah,
Yeah, I think that was the last thing you sent to Dad.
you know, uh, I have a new big band out. Well, it's not new anymore. It's been out a year. It's a big band album called Out of the Blue. It's like an
Oh,
all-star New York band. It's a streaming label called Law Reserve.
okay,
It's Lou Marini and Blue Band, and the name of the CD is Out of the Blue on
okay,
Law Reserve Records. It's
okay.
really
Can't wait.
good, and I have a new CD with this brilliant young piano player called Point of View on La Reserve. Also, that came out in October, and
Awesome.
in April, I've been playing with an Italian trio, and it's an album of all my own music. It's called Playtime,
Yeah.
and it's going to be on La Reserve also. The
Y'all
first
travel
single
a
is
lot.
out.
I've never seen between you and Tom. Y'all travel everywhere. I
Yeah,
always look at your pictures, man. Y'all go some neat places.
yeah, we're road rats. I
Well,
just got back from a week in Bern, Switzerland, playing at
oh
a
yeah, that's
great
right.
jazz club called
Yeah.
Marion's. And
Oh man.
that's a CD too that's out now called "We Like to Groove." It's a great boogie woogie piano player from Barcelona named Luis Coloma and myself.
Oh
It's really good, man. It's a
wow.
happy CD. So I got four things.
Yeah, we'll look those
Out of
up. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
check it out.
Yeah, we'll put some samples from it up on the side. That'd be great.
Good.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
man.
well, it's very nice to meet you, and
Same here.
thank anything else, just let us know. And this has been such an honor. I really appreciate you getting with us, and I hope to talk to you some more.
Same here.
Off the camera.
All right. All right.
All right,
Daryl,
Bye, Lou.
later. Later.
Thank
Thank
all
you,
you.
right.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you, Lee. Appreciate it.
Thanks.